Welcome to the InfiNOT podcast. I'm Kiernimbus, and this is my co-host Daka.
Howdy.
We're focused on the casual nature of the game and talking about experiences with all that's new. This week, we'll be covering a lot of stuff. We have the August patch notes that happened near the beginning of the month, the OTA changes that have swept across the meta, the new PC launch, which was ginormous, the Twitch drops, and of course, all the new cards that are coming out in the new season. It's really exciting. But before we get to that, Daka, how's your time in Marvel Snap? We do have an announcement for the podcast, but before we get to that, how you doing?
Doing pretty great. Grinding my soul away, enjoying the game, building new decks all the time, loving the new cards.
And listeners, I'm going to be frank with you, okay? I called this the InfiNOT podcast. Not because I didn't think we could get to infinite, but because that's not the point of this podcast. And you know what, Daka? Do you want to tell them something?
I think it'd be better if you did.
Okay. Daka hit infinite. Yes, hold your applause. It's an incredible feat done only by Daka. I am not infinite. But he made it with the negative surfer list. He kicked butt, took names, and he's now in that elite club. But I don't think it's that important to the integrity of this podcast, especially because you haven't earned an infinity ticket from Conquest, as far as I know.
Well, I might have 5 infinity tickets sitting in my conquest right now.
But you haven't beaten that yet.
No.
Okay. Once you do that, I will have to kill you. But until then, we'll be safe. So yeah. And speaking of other announcement for the podcast, we're going to move to a monthly release schedule, and just like the InfiNOT, we're going to have to skip a few weeks before we drop a big podcast episode every month. So you can expect longer episodes, but we'll be doing it at the end of the month, so that way we have lots and lots to talk about. And yeah, it's gonna be an epic journey. I'm so excited. We're also going to be revealing our new logo. I'm sure that if you're already watching this, you've seen it. It's awesome. I love it a lot, and the artist that we commissioned was extremely friendly about it. So yeah, my week in Marvel Snap, or my weeks in Marvel Snap has been really crazy personally. Between the new Twitch drops and the PC launch and all that, my content has been really awesome. I will say I have had some trouble on ladder more recently, but it might just be because I'm bad, and you know what? That's okay. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the August patch notes that came out near the beginning of the season. We did talk about, some of the changes, but I don't think we talked about all of them. So Cable got changed pretty drastically, so that he, pulls the top card of your opponent's deck instead of the bottom because of that, America Chavez change. Magic made it so that you can play her after her effect, and she doesn't just stay stuck in your hand. Mr. Negative has cards capped at a maximum of 6 cost. So if your death got flipped, you could still technically play her. Rogue had some minor change, and honestly, the biggest change to me was Spider-Man. So Spider-Man was changed from a 5/4 that made it so that your opponents can't play a card, and it was changed into a 3/5 with the ability to move to another location and pull an enemy card from here to there. The only other minor change, I think, was the Thing, who made it so he afflicts 3 random enemy cards with -1 power instead of 1 card with -3 power. So with all that being said, Daka, what do you think about this patch, the beginning of the month? And do you personally feel the effect of any of the changes?
I have. I've noticed a lot less Spider-Man. Well, I don't know. I still see a lot of Spider-Man, but I'm not wanting to rip my hair out when I'm playing against a Spider-Man now.
It's kind of great. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, as a Mr. Negative enjoyer, do you personally find that you play decks with the huge cost cards? Did that affect change anything for you?
Yeah. I've been running a big card negative deck that's been really fun. I've been running I guess the big combo in it is Wong Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have a lot of other big cards in it. And it's been pretty good. I mean, I just like Mr. Negative as a character, and luckily, I really, really enjoy how he plays in the game, and he's also really strong. But yeah, more reasons for me to play Mr. Negative is always a good thing.
Yeah, no, I do like that change. It's just a quality of life thing that I think is really going to help. And the same thing with Magic. One of the weirdest parts about her is it wasn't explicitly explained in her text, but after her effect had passed by turn 5, you couldn't play her on turn 6. Now she's a 3/2, so I don't know how often you're gonna win by playing a 3/2 on turn 6 or 7, but you can now. If you're really desperate for points, you can slam her down. And then the last thing that is really notable to me was the Cable change, because before he was just a America Chavez card draw, which is a little rough, but he was changed so that he now pulls the top card of your opponent's deck, which is useful. It gives you information on your opponent's deck, and you can prevent them from drawing something that might be important to their game plan.
He's just a more consistent Manus.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, for me, I have seen a couple of pro players put together this really wacky move deck that has Spider-Man and Silk and Kraven, and it just slams points on the board. So I haven't actually looked through the entirety of that list, but I think I get the gist, right? You're putting cards down that move frequently, and Spider-Man is now kind of like he's not better or worse than Juggernaut or Stegron. He's just different.
He's a new flavor.
Yeah, they all serve technically different purposes, right? So Stegron tries to get you ahead in a lane by moving a card out, while keeping his power there. Juggernaut tries to deny any cards being played at that location on that turn. So obviously plays with Storm are very good, or if there's a location that's about to close, that's also very good, because it moves all the cards there. And Spider-Man very specifically moves one other card from that location and himself to a new one. So it's like a weird in-between, I think. And yeah, I think those are all the big changes there. And then obviously the second most exciting thing to come out of that was the reveals for the Loki season cards, which are coming very, very soon as of the release of this podcast. We're recording this at the end of the month on the 31st.
We have 4 days and an hour.
4 days and an hour for the new season. You can expect a lot of crazy stuff. But before we got to that part, I did want to go over the cards that came out this month and sort of give our opinion on where we think the cards are at. So for this season, for the August season, we had Lady Deathstrike, Dakin, X-23, and last but not least, Silver Samurai, who came out more recently. I'll let you go first. Dakin, what on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel Dakin rates as a card?
As a card, I'm gonna say I'd probably give him an 8. I find that he's typically consistent, as long as you're running him in a destroy or a discard deck, which you shouldn't really run him anywhere else.
Right.
But he's a 3/8 effectively, and I mean, I don't know, it's really nice to just have a 3/8 in your back pocket. And if there are locations like Bar Sinister or Sinister London, anytime you can get multiple what are they called? Mishimura shards?
Muramasa shards, yeah.
Oh, Muramasa shards, yeah. Anytime that you can get multiple of those down, or it's wild.
Yeah, no, I was going to give him a 7. I think that he's not essential to a deck, but he is good. I find that, his the easiest place to put him is in a discard deck, because if you have MODOK, which discards your entire hand anyway, making your hand a little bigger to buff up your Morbius and buff up your Dakin is just an easy decision to make. And then obviously he pairs well with Absorbing Man. I personally had a huge amount of success with my list. Whenever I played, discard for a mission, I'm choosing my Dakin list just because it's so consistent. And I think, as crazy as it sounds, a 3/8 is just kind of okay, right? If you're going for power, then it's extremely important. But right now, I feel like the game is so hingent on abilities. And Magneto is really popular right now, and I find that when I'm playing a discard deck, my Dracula, my Dakin, those cards usually get pulled to one lane, and that's a little unfortunate. That's the most I can say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I might be shrouded by the fact that I really like Dakin as a character, but I also run Destroy a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like him in a Deadpool Destroy list it's crazy.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
So nice.
Well, speaking of Deadpool Destroy, I guess we could talk about X-23 next, and I'll go first this time.
Go for it.
Mostly because I don't have the card. I decided to save my caches for this month. I'm really excited about the September cards. So my description is going to be pretty brief. I think that you might have more experience than me. For me personally, the card seems like a 6. And what I mean by that is it didn't like destroy the game and be as crazy as I thought it would, but it's just good in the decks that it's good in. So that's personally what I feel. What how about you?
I'd say X-23 is either a 7 or an 8. I got her out of the last cache I possibly could for her.
Okay, yeah.
But when I got her, I played her in my Deadpool list, which it's so nice just constantly having a free Deadpool every turn.
Mm-hmm.
That way that you can focus more on your cards that, just destroy. It's really nice, and especially because I think the weekend that she came out, the location for the weekend was, I don't remember the name of it, but it's the altar, the one that it destroys and it gives you energy. Yeah, no, is it Altar of Death?
Yeah, I think that's the one where you put a card there, it's destroyed, and you get +2 energy.
Yeah. So you can play her and Deadpool into that over and over. You can throw down Bucky Barnes into it, and you're just getting so much free energy. I had Null out on like turn 3.
Yeah, that sounds insane.
And I've also been running her in my Silver Samurai list, where she's also been an absolute gem.
Yeah, no, we can talk about Silver Samurai next, because again, I don't have the card. I wish I did. I truly wish I did, but in this game right now, with the way that the economy is going, you got to make decisions. You got to make choices on what you want, and so I chose this month to skip Silver Samurai. At some point in the future, I might be able to snag him somewhere. But I think Silver Samurai is just a better Moon Knight in pretty much every circumstance. Like, yes, Moon Knight is cheaper, but for 4 power, you're getting the 4 or 5 stat line. You can be very selective on the cards you discard, and obviously, it buffs up your stature, which you really can't complain about. So for me, I'd probably give him, I don't know, I'd give him an 8. Like, he's just good at what he does. I think, especially, I've seen some people go for the crazy Wong combos, and you just delete the other player's hand, and then you have a handful of swarms.
Yeah.
That's just evil to me. But what do you think? What would you rate him?
So I was very torn about if I wanted to use my Spotlight cache this week. I was thinking about it. I don't really care about the Kitty Pryde variant, but I do really want Spider-Man 2099, and I also really want Silver Samurai. But it was funny because going into the season, looking at all the cards, I thought that I would like him the least out of all the cards, and I am absolutely in love with the Silver Samurai list that I have going. It's so much fun, and it lets me run Crossbones, and I always love running Crossbones. And being able to discard Silver Samurai, and I also run Dakin in the list, or not being able to discard Silver Samurai, being able to discard X-23 or Dakin's Shard with Silver Samurai is really nice. Buff stature. I also run Moon Girl, so I can duplicate it. It's really fun, and I've been tearing up the ladder with it.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounds like it. I think, like I said, I think he's good at what he does, man. And I think that he's also extremely consistent in comparison to some of the other cards here, right, that may require a little bit more enabling to happen. You can run Silver Samurai in, like, just your typical discard list, or you could run him as a tech card against Iron Mans and Draculas and the like. Yeah, I think he's really interesting. And with that, it leads us to our last card of the August season, and that's Lady Deathstrike. Now, I'll let you go first on this one. I don't remember if you said you got the card or not.
Lady Deathstrike is the only card that I did not get this season.
Okay.
But based off of just what I've seen going around, I think Lady Deathstrike is good at countering cards like Iron Man or like Iron Man, Mystique, Wong, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, I think she's just more of a fun pick for, like, you know, if you want to make the world's biggest Lady Deathstrike and then throw her in a lane and then maybe Arnim Zola her later or something.
Sure.
But I'd probably give her a 6 out of 10, where she has good uses and she also has a really good fun side, but I don't think she's game breaking by any means or anything super, super crazy.
So here's the thing. Last podcast, I think we talked about just how excited I was for Lady Deathstrike, right?
A little bit.
Just a smidge. And you know what? I think that she lived up to the hype, okay? I freaking love this card. And I'll tell you why. Nobody's playing her, okay? Nobody is expecting you to come in and destroy their Morbius lane or, you know, take out their bounce lane or whatever. Nobody is counting for Lady Deathstrike. And we'll talk about it a little later, but she did also get a little bit of a power boost. So, you know, Forge especially is really relevant right now in the game. Nakia pairs really well with her. I've been destroying a lot of stuff, and I think especially when paired with our main man, Shadow King, I think that she's incredible. But that being said, I recognize that I'm in the minority of enjoying this card, mostly because a lot of decks right now either have lockdown or, you know, if they are building up power, it very quickly outscales Lady Deathstrike. So you have to be very tactical with the way that you use her. And I think for that reason, I'll give her a solid 7 out of 10 for me personally. I feel like she's better to use than not in most of the decks that I build with her. She's incredible disruption, and she works well with cards like Sentry or the Hood, or you name it. I think that she does an excellent job there. So with that out of the way, I think we can talk about the Loki season. It's going to come out very, very soon, and we're going to do a similar thing, but we're going to rate it out of 10 based off of first impressions. So let's go ahead and start with Loki. So right now, what we know about Loki is what we have from the data mines. He's going to be a 3/5 with the on reveal, replace your hand with cards from your opponent's starting deck, give them -1 cost. I'm personally going to rate this. I'm going to rate it a 5 out of 10. I think I'm going to do that. And the reason I say that is because other than some Dino decks, maybe, I don't see the unlimited potential of this card. I just feel like playing with your opponent's cards is a gamble, and it may or may not work out for you. But what do you think? What do you think of Loki?
He is a 3/5, which is nice. I enjoy 3/5 stat line.
Yeah, it's solid.
I think he has some interesting uses, but I don't think that he's really going to see too much play. With that said, I'm a maniac, so I'm probably going to play this card a lot.
You know, it's a fun card.
Me, I'm probably going to give him like a 7.
A 7?
Out of 10.
Okay.
7.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to be excited to see what people do with this card. I think the key thing here, I think, when talking about Loki, is the fact that he replaces your hand. He's not adding to your hand like a Moon Girl or something. He is replacing your hand with cards from your opponent's starting deck. But I think the discount is a pretty appealing. If you made a deck that had, like, you know, White Queen, Cable, and Morph, and you were just trying to copy your opponent but better, maybe I could see this card being played. But it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure there's going to be some crazy lists that just slam out cards. Maybe you play this in a deck that wants to put out a lot of cards on the board. I mean, you know me, I love my Dazzler. So maybe there's a place there or something. Speaking of, we alluded to it earlier, Alioth. Alioth is now a 6/5. Apparently he's been changed in the data mines. He's a 6/5 with the on reveal, destroy all enemy cards played here this turn, including unrevealed cards. He's a big juggernaut. We'll start with you this time. What do you think about Alioth?
So I know some people that have said that they think this card is going to be crazy, just really, really, really insanely good. I don't think that he is going to be that big of a problem. 6/5 stat line. I think we talked about it a little bit before. I think Kier said it the best. At his best, he is as strong as a good Galactus play. At his worst, he does nothing for you because you have to be ahead, really, for him to have any sort of value.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think his outside of in-game plays, his biggest plays are probably going to be in or are going to be ramp plays like Wave and then him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're doing that with a Wave, you're only getting rid of one card and you have to, guess right out of the 3 lanes.
Yep.
So I think he's going to be a fun card to mess around with. I know I'm definitely going to be interested in wanting to see what all I can do with him. So for me, I'm going to say an 8.
Ooh, okay.
Because I think the potential is there, and I'm sure the times when you can calculate and guess right, it's going to be monumental, massive. But those moments might be far and few between.
I've been really debating this in my head. At first, when you look at him at his base, he's a win more card. You know what I mean? Like, I actually enjoy Crossbones. I think turn 2 Zabu into turn 3 Crossbones is a good combo. But the caveat is that if you're not winning your lane, you can't play Crossbones. That's his text. And I almost feel like Alioth is the same. If you have him in your deck, you want to be ahead in a lane before you play him. That might not always be the case, right? Stopping a combo in that lane might be important. But here's what I was thinking, right? I think he might work best in Professor X lists. Like, you scam somebody out of a lane using Storm or Professor X, and then you wait for them to do their turn 6 combo, and you just smash it to pieces. Like, imagine you're playing against a Surfer list, they have their Brood out, they have their, Wong Mystique, and they're about to play their crazy Ironheart, Silver Surfer play, and you just play Alioth and destroy it before the cards go off. I get, that to me has legitimate value. So I think I'm gonna I might be proven wrong, but I think that he might be a 9 for me. Like, I'm excited for all the cards this season. I'm excited to play around with them. I think Alioth is gonna stick around. I really think he is. Having the ability to shut down a turn 6 play in its entirety is very, very strong. And as you mentioned, he's going to be even better in lists that use ramp. Like, I'm almost imagining him in a leader deck. Like, you play Alioth after Wave to... It'll be a guess, but if you destroy that card, that is extremely powerful. And then playing leader in that same list means you're copying the power. I just think that, his maximum potential is yet to be determined. I think it's going to be pretty crazy. So let's move on to Mobius M. Mobius. If you remember, I'm really excited about this card. I think it's pretty amazing. It's a 2/3 with the ongoing, your costs can't be increased, and your opponent's costs can't be reduced. This is a one-stop shop to prevent bullshit locations from ruining your combo. Say goodbye to Iceman, Wave, all of these cards that are going to mess up your game plan. I like, if you just hate disruption, you're putting this guy in every single one of your decks. What do you think about him?
I agree. To be honest.
Yeah.
Honestly, 2/3 stat line is not bad, and especially for what he does, I think he's going to be phenomenal. I'll probably just run him in most of my decks just because I hate seeing Hazmat. Or not Hazmat, what am I talking about? Iceman.
I mean, yeah, like, not only that, but I'm curious on how he's going to interact with Spider-Ham. Because if you look at Spider-Ham's card, right, the cost and power are always like red. to indicate that, you know, it's a pig? Does he just make it so that the pig costs 0 every time? Is this the ultimate anti-pig card? I don't know, and I'm really excited about it. And one interaction that I still haven't figured out yet is whether or not he's going to work with or against Wave. Like, they made that big change to Wave where she overrides other discounts. If you remember, like, your death is still going to cost 4. If you have Zabu out, your 4 costs are going to stay at 4. I'm just wondering if they're going to make an exception for Mobius. For me personally, I think Mobius is going to be a solid 8. I think he's going to be in a lot of decks. I was
going to say an 8 too. I think he is.
I think he's also one of those cards that you're not going to actively understand the value of until you run into those crazy locations. You know the ones I'm talking about, like Icebox or Dream Dimension or any of these cards that really disrupt your hand. The Peak.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I just had an insane idea. Just going back to Loki for a second.
Yeah.
The ultimate counter to Weird World.
Oh, interesting.
Think about it, right? You let them draw from your deck for a bit, and then you just take their hand.
So
it's your deck again?
It's not their hand. It's replace your hand with cards from your opponent's starting deck.
Yeah, you don't... Oh, from their starting deck. I thought it was swap, or was you take what's in their hand. I see.
Yeah, I think it literally randomly chooses out of the 12 cards in their deck, and then gives it to you.
I see. I would like to change my rating.
Okay.
9 out of 10.
Okay. Wow, that's
even
impressive.
Better.
Even better. What's so intriguing about that?
I'm a psychopath.
Okay, you know what?
I only see this going well.
All right, epic. Yeah, so Mobius, I'm super excited for. I also love the variants. I'm pretty upset though. I'm pretty upset because I heard that they're locking some Dan Hip variants in Spotlight caches, and I don't think that's cool. I gotta be honest with you.
You know, as a Dan Hip enjoyer, as I think most of us are, I agree. That's not cool.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I hope they change that. If they don't, I'll be really, really sad. That being said, Ravonna Renslayer is up next. She's a 3/3 with the ongoing your cards with 1 or less power cost 1 less to a minimum of 1. This is a funky ass card, dude. It
really is.
I'm really, really interested to see how good this card is because it, like, even in the decks where she's good, she's not a start at game effect, so you have to draw her before you really get the value there. I don't know, man. She's a wild card. I'm gonna say a 5 out of 10 for me personally. I don't know the potential of this card yet, but I'm excited to experiment with it.
I think she's... The way that I'm envisioning it is she is going to be a Zabu for people that like to run the goblins, that like... I mean, I already know that Zabu affects negative, but, you know, like negative... you want to get your Cerebro out earlier. You want to get your Mystique out. You want to get your Arnim Zola out early.
Oh, wait.
You want to get your Iron Man out early.
I think we talked about this earlier, too. I think that she's a good backup in a negative deck. Did we talk about that?
We might have.
Right, like, you have a lot of cards in your negative deck that are going to be, like, Ironheart, or Jubilee, or Iron Man, or, you know, the list continues. Wolfsbane. I digress. I think that she's a pretty good backup in those sort of lists, and I think that she can stand on her own. As you said, I actually like your description. She's like a Zabu in the decks where she's relevant, right? Like, if you have a couple of cards in your deck that have a small amount of power, I'm thinking of like Cerebro or like
let's say Cerebro 3 is gonna be even better because
actually that's insane.
Because it benefits Mystique and Cerebro and Iron Man.
She also works in Silver Surfer, right? Because I mean, if you're running, she doesn't benefit Wong, but she does benefit Mystique, and she benefits Wolfsbane, and she benefits Ironheart.
Ironheart,
yeah.
And I don't know. I'm interested to see what she's gonna look like in Destroy decks. Because the Arnim Zola, the Null, and I mean, even to a degree, Taskmaster, being able to play those sooner.
Yeah,
That's a lot of good potential.
The more that you're explaining this, I actually really love your description. I think, yeah, it's going to be like a new Zabu, right? You just throw Ravona in whenever you have these cards, and you can play more of those cards more often. I think that's really cool. Yeah.
Turn 4 Hobgoblin, baby.
Turn 4 Hobgoblins. Oh my
I love
god,
Hobgoblins.
Galactus. Oh no. Ugh. Ugh. That's going to be really bad.
No one's ever been hurt by Galactus.
No one's
Anyways,
ever
now that
been
I'm done lying.
Yeah, so yeah, that's the Loki season. I'm so excited for this season. I talked about it before. It's gonna be so cool. All of these are super unique cards. I think that we're gonna have some new archetypes, perhaps, and Alioth just seems like a catch-all card. I feel like he's gonna be really, really good across the board. Same with Mobius, and then Ravona and Loki are just deck building challenges, and I love those. So yeah, super, super awesome. Next up, we wanted to talk about the OTA changes that happened on the 17th of this month. And I think one of these cards I'm seeing all over the place, and the other two still not seeing. Let's start with the biggest one, in my opinion, Forge.
I mean, of course.
Yes, so Forge was a 2/1 that gave the next card you play +2 power, and honestly, I think that he was underrated. I used him a couple of, like my Deadpool deck and such, but his change is important here. The next card you play gets +3 power, so he is essentially a 2/4 with an upside, which is very strong. The deck that I'm seeing right now, that's like basically its own archetype, is Forge into Brood into Absorbing Man with some like board buffs, like Blue Marvel or Wong Ironheart or whatever. It's just a huge amount of power for very, very little investment. Have you seen this card around? Do you use him?
Oh, I use Forge a ton. Here, let me pull up the list that I've been terrorizing people with. Where is it? Ah, yes. Yes, I Hate You is the name of it. It is a it is a Wong Mystique Forge, and then so you play Wong on 4, then you play Mystique Forge on 5, then you play Odin on 6, and then you throw down Yellow Jacket with Odin on turn 6 and make the world's biggest Yellow Jacket.
The fact that you're bringing back the Yellow Jacket list is hilarious, because I actually remember seeing a list not too long ago that had a very similar play, but it's even better now, right? Because of Forge.
And I have Dan Hip Wasp on there too, and admittedly, I also have Magic to extend to turn 7 if I need to, and if I can get Magic out, then there's always Galactus.
Yeah, dude, this card is insane. Just what more can you say about it? It's a 2/4 with an upside, and of course the decks you're going to use him in are going to boost that power. He's better in move decks. He's better in destroy decks. Hell, he's better in Orca lists, because now you can make your Orca 19 power. Like,
he's just like, there is no downside to Forge.
Yeah,
I really just don't think that there's a single downside.
Yeah. And I'm a hipster, so I haven't been using him in my Death Strike list yet, but I totally should. There's like, especially, and we'll talk about her change later on, but I mean, come on. What is there more to say? Forge is great. He's really relevant in the game right now, and I think that's awesome. So that leaves us with two other changes here. Shauna. Shauna was moved from a 4/4 to a 3/2, and nobody plays her.
I have run into 2 Shaunas, and I think both times they pulled out X-23, but they weren't playing a destroy deck, so there was honestly, I think that's probably the biggest use of Shauna I can think of, is having essentially a slightly better Squirrel Girl for you to Killmonger.
You know what's the worst part about that, though? You know who does that job better?
Squirrel Girl.
Debris.
True, because she gives you 4 instead of 3.
Yeah. I mean,
She's
Debris
also
just...
a 2/3, right?
She's a 3/3. So...
Oh, a 3/3, okay.
She has 1 more power than Shauna. She's not giving you, like, a bullshit, like a random Ghost or something. Debris is going to give you rocks. If you want to use the disruption, you can. If you don't, you get Killmonger. Yeah, man. I just I've been cooking up a list. It's been on the stove for a while with, Dazzler, Shauna, Doom, those sort of things. It's hard right now because the game isn't really built around filling your board. You're just not getting as many benefits as you are with like a Shuri play. So it's pretty rough. I feel for Shanna, and she, and we could talk about how good she is all day. I will say, if you're just looking to have a little bit of fun, I think that she's a fun card. I think people are sleeping on that part. I think that she has a lot of the same appeal as like Agent 13 or Agent Coulson or those cards that give you randomness. But I don't know, man. I just don't think that she has a place right now, especially because, Mysterio is unique in his effect that he says play cards to these locations, right? So, like, you compare him with Bishop or Hitmonkey and he's pretty good. Shauna doesn't work that way, and I almost wish that she did. I feel like she would actually see play then.
That's not something I had thought about, but I definitely think that she would be better if she played like Mysterio or something.
Right? Is that too crazy of a change? Would that make her busted? I don't know. Maybe in that case you could revert her back to the 4/4. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. That being said, we can move on to Crystal. I don't hate this change. She was moved from a 4/4 to a 3/3. She draws a card for you and your opponent. What do you think?
So I have been using Crystal more, but I've also been playing a lot of decks where you just want more draw.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think for what she is, she's solid, and I don't think that it was a bad change by any means. It's nice that she's a 3/3 just because you're using her to just get draw, so getting draw earlier is nice. I just wish that she was a bit better. I mean, I don't think it would have been that big of a deal if they changed it to where only you draw, because the downside is that you're giving an opponent you're also giving an opponent draw.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I don't know. I think she's just fine, but she could obviously be better.
Yeah, I think that she dumpsters Adam Warlock, and that's really all I have to say about it. Like, why would you ever play Adam Warlock when you can have a 3/3 Crystal? You know what I mean? It's one more power, you guarantee the draw, and you don't have to work for it. So, yeah. I will say, I have used Adam Warlock in a couple of lists that I really like, but it's hard to squeeze him in. It really is. Like, sure, you could draw multiple of your cards every turn, but I actually prefer Jubilee because she plays the card too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah. Those were the OTA changes for the 17th, and I think our next topic is going to be a big one. I'm just going to say it, man. PC launch is pretty freaking epic. It's pretty Omega Pog, as some people might say. I love it. I love this. I love the PC client. I think there's a couple of things that I want to criticize. But let's just talk about it, man. The PC launch was sort of announced out of nowhere. I wasn't prepared for it.
That's true. I was watching Gamescom.
Yep.
And I was like, is that who I think it is coming on stage?
Yeah.
And sure enough, he walked up there and they played the Marvel Snap trailer, and I was like, okay, we're getting a trailer.
Which is amazing.
This the PC launch? Oh, it was a phenomenal trailer. The animation was insane.
My boy Ghost Rider got some freaking love in this one, dude. It is so good. Yeah. Oh, but continue.
And I was like, so is this the PC launch? And it was the PC launch. And I immediately clicked onto Steam, updated, and overall, it has its flaws. I love the PC edition. I think it's great. And I can finally see my cards in high res.
I would even venture to say it is the best way to play the game.
I would undoubtedly say it is the best way to play the game.
The collection screen is amazing. It is incredible. I love the new collection screen. I love all the options that you have for sorting cards. I also really like how big the board feels now. There is some empty space, and I think that they could maybe move around the cube and things, but I think it works extremely well. If anything, it's, the biggest, complaints that I would have is that a couple of the menus just look like they were ported from the old client. Like they're still in that portrait view in
Mm-hmm.
the center of the screen. But for the modes that they did change, like I love the main screen. I think the main screen looks pretty incredible, and the collection screen is amazing. And yeah, I super enjoy it. Do you have any particular criticisms that I may not have listed?
For me, I think the biggest, like, real biggest criticisms I have are a few of the menus that are still obviously just ported mobile menus, but I hope that, they'll fix those in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like that they just wanted to get the PC launch out, which I respect because
Yeah.
overall it is really nice. I can't really think of anything that's inherently wrong other than it. I don't think there's a tab where I can just sort by, like, I just want to see only my variants,
Okay.
which is a thing, but I mean that's just really small. And I don't even know if this is a PC client thing, but I would like to have more decks
Oh
because I
yeah.
build a lot of them. But
I'll agree with
that's
you on that.
just I think that's an ever-present problem in most card games. But overall, very nice. I like it a lot, and I hope that they. I mean, honestly, if they just iron out the weird phone port displays, I think it'll be amazing, phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I've also heard a couple of people mention that maybe they could do something similar to Hearthstone with the big screen and have like interactables while you're like waiting for somebody else's turn. And that is not a criticism, that's just a suggestion. I feel like there's so much space there. It'd be visually interesting to see new stuff. But yeah, dude, the PC launch I think was a success. I think I personally I have some of my favorite streamers that hadn't played the game before get sponsored to play Marvel Snap, and then they kept playing it after, which is a phenomenal compliment to Marvel Snap's pulling power. Shout out to Voxy, who I personally love watching. She's on the Marvel Snap grind right now, and it's very fun to see. So yeah, PC launch, absolute success. I'm really excited to see what they do with the things in the future, and yeah, I think that's it. For the PC launch, I would also like to say there was a couple of crazy Twitch events that went on. I think I missed out on them. There was like a Twitch Rivals thing. There was obviously Gamescom, and there was also SnapCon that happened fairly recently. I don't know if you saw that, but it was hosted by Felicity, who is a popular streamer, and people all over the Snap universe went to Florida, and they had a great time. I heard it was a really cool experience. So yeah, a lot of community events. I'm really stoked. And with community events, we can talk about the Twitch drops that came out. This was also sort of just dropped in. The first Twitch drop that happened was the Max Greek Spider-Man, and it gave you, the variant for Spider-Man, but also gave you an avatar, some boosters, and if you already owned the variant, you got gold instead. I think that's amazing. And then, of course, the other drops that happened were for a limited time, but it affected all streams of Marvel Snap, including mine, which was really awesome to see. There was a Nightcrawler one, a Moon Girl one, and there was another one.
It was Sunspot.
Sunspot. Yes, that's right. What do you think about the Twitch
I tragically
drops?
did not get. I think the Twitch drops are amazing. I think that Twitch drops, when they're things like cosmetics and stuff like that, and as long as I guess when they have as much like love put into them as these ones do, like these variants do,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's no downside at all. And like especially since like you're getting credits with them, like I'm pretty sure each one gave you 35 credits, a title, an avatar, a variant. Or no, I give you 35 boosters, sorry, 200 credits, a title, an avatar, and a variant.
Mm-hmm.
And in 6 hours, you got all of them,
Yeah.
which is just insanely good.
Yeah, no, I think it was a slam dunk. I mean, you and I have talked about sort of the, I don't know, like the punishing nature of the economy right now, especially if you're a casual player. But this was, I mean, an absolute success. What more can you say? It's free stuff, and the variants were high quality. I think it was a really good choice on their part.
Would you like to hear my current economic situation in the game?
Sure, yeah, lay it on me.
I have 1 gold and 0 credits.
Yikes. Looks
Hmm.
like. Do you have any daily missions?
I will tomorrow.
All right. Well, Yep, that's
Oh,
Marvel Snap.
um, and one quick thing that we forgot to mention about
Oh,
the
sure.
PC launch
Yeah.
is the Devil Dino mech
Oh,
variant that
yeah.
came out, and the
Yeah.
boosters and the week of daily logins that we had, or login rewards that we had,
Yes,
which
the
were all
login
really
rewards.
nice.
Thank you for reminding me about those. You're totally right. Yeah. So, I'll list them out here. I think it was 200 gold. You got some Devil Dino boosters. You got the avatar for Devil Dino, the mech one. You got some credits, some gold conquest tickets, which I don't really care about. 300 gold, and then a premium mystery variant, which dude, I got Dan Hip Dazzler, which I was super happy about. So yeah, really, just an absolute slam dunk, especially because anybody who joined the game during this time automatically got the Mech Devil Dino, which was super awesome.
Hmm.
It was super
I
duper
I
cool.
know my one of my uncle's friends. He's played a few card games in the past, but he started playing, and he noticed that I was playing it, and he asked me if I wanted to play a few games. And first game, he dropped the Mech Dino, and I was like, ah, I see. Um, the
Yeah.
premium variant I got from it was this thick Ultron variant, which I need to play more Ultron so I can grind out stuff for him. But it's the Rocky Kim variant.
Let me look that one up.
It's the one where he's like his arms are up and he has like 6 arms and he's all bulked out and he's got red glowing spots everywhere.
Oh, yeah, I see it now. Holy moly.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Guess I
That is
need to play
awesome.
more Ultron.
Yeah, man. Well, if you're looking for a deck guide, you can go to my YouTube. No, just kidding. But no, Ultron is super
This
cool. I'm
guy.
glad that you got the variant. Yeah, dude, super awesome. This was honestly, it felt like we finally got some love. We've been
Yeah.
like battling with our parents' company for this long, and we finally got a little bit of wiggle room. This was the birthday party special. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. So, uh, and last but not least, before we start closing things out, I did want to talk about the OTA changes for today. They happened very recently.
They did. I
Um,
didn't know that they happened until I was playing this morning, and I saw my Doom, and I was like, "Wait a minute!"
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I went and read the changes.
And we can go a little bit more in depth on this because I think I'm personally curious to see their reasoning. I haven't read that yet. I just know the number changes. So let's start with Doctor Doom. He was a 6/5 that added 4 power Doom bots to other locations, but now the Doom bots have been added back up to 5. So the devs say here, in hindsight, the timing for our previous nerf to Doctor Doom wasn't ideal. While he was dominating, we had Spider-Hand coming with an elbow from the top rope, and move decks were on the rise, so his stock was already going to dip. In the weeks since, the metagame has shifted further, with Professor X becoming a lockdown favorite once again, and Captain Marvel challenging locations left and right. We're confident Doom deserves at least a return to his former glory in order to compete. I have no complaints. I don't think anybody was asking for Doom to be nerfed. I think that he's a pretty fair card, all things considered.
Hmm. I have no issues at all with the Doctor Doom change. I think it's solid. They're making an already not broken, but just really solid 15 power, or what was he before? 13 power to distribute across the board. Now
Yeah.
15 power to distribute across the board. And I love it. I mean, I'm a big Doctor Doom fan just in general. So, more reason for me to run Doctor Doom is always nice.
Yeah, and I feel like there's been a lot of discussion over like what is the best 6-drop, and it's been consistently Magneto, right? Because 3 and 4 costs are just so prevalent. I think you could argue Doctor Doom, maybe, like especially if you if you just need a solid finisher, you're already ahead, and you just need to fill up some locations. Doctor Doom is your man.
Sorry, Agatha, all the way.
Agatha best 6-drop, believe me, bro. I've made
I,
like 6
I,
decks.
I actually got the title playing Agatha earlier this week.
That is hilarious. Look, man.
I need to make an Agatha list.
I would honestly play more Agatha for funsies if she didn't steal all the goddamn boosters. And she just sucks them all up. But anyway, we can talk about the next change, which is Captain Marvel. I don't know, man. I don't like this change. I get it, but I don't like it. Let's see what they have to say about it. So, she was a 4/5, but now she's a 4/4. So, moving Carol from 5/6 to 4/5 shook some things up, and the change wound up coming a little hotter than we hoped for. For the last week, Captain Marvel has been one of the best performing cards in our 2 best performing decks, traditional Zabuhawk and the new Angela Craven based move deck. While we know that there's movement in the metagame and a few new decks surging to combat those two, they were already strong decks. They didn't need this to shine. We're going to cool Carol off for a minute to let the metagame breathe before evaluating where her happiest home would be if it's not 4. Dude, I think this killed the card. I'm not even going to lie to you.
I am not the biggest fan of the change, but I will say in their description, they seem very open to the idea that if she is underperforming, they'll bump her back up. But at the end of the day, I really don't like the change. But then again, I'm also not running the Angela Craven or Zabuhawk because I don't have Darkhawk. So
see, I have Darkhawk. I'm just a hipster. I know. You can tell me.
Look, well, okay. I like Darkhawk, but I think Darkhawk got nerfed decently with another adjustment in this patch.
Oh yeah, I think I know the one you're talking about. So let's move on then. We'll get further down the list here. Let's talk about Legion. So everybody who was playing this game was like, Legion's going to be a fun card, he's going to be okay. But in reality, he ended up being one of the best cards in the game. He shuts down magic lanes. He gives you the ability to stop storm lanes. He gives you the ability to, pick locations that benefit you and hurt your opponent. Turn 6, you can throw him down on Death's Domain and destroy all your opponent's cards. The possibilities are endless, and I don't think we realize that. So, he was moved from a 5/8 to a 5/7, a very light nerf. Let's see what they have to say about it. Speaking of coming in hot, we were worried players might underestimate Legion, so we gave him a late internal buff from 5/7 to 5/8 for some extra oomph to ensure that he put on a show for everyone. Seems kind of silly now though, doesn't it? Legion has consistently appeared in a variety of strong decks, has been one of our top performing cards for a few weeks. That's been fun, and he's added some fresh dynamics to existing matchups that were truly unique. However, he also disrupts some of the diversity we rely upon location variants to create within the metagame, so we're going to take that extra edge off. I still think that he's going to be played. 5/7 is respectable.
I still think he's... when I was looking at the changes, I think I summed up the changes as... 2 of them were good changes. One of them was a change that I was and then one I didn't like. Well, this was the one that's kind of I don't think it's going to change really too much because you're not throwing down Legion for his power, you're throwing him down for his ability. But with that said, to quote a mighty cloud that I know, I'm a bit of a Legion hipster. I like to throw down Legion on, Elysium?
Okay.
To have pretty much free cards for everybody. But, the potential for Legion is just limitless.
Yeah, I think that he's just so strong. So,
yeah, I don't think it's going to change too much.
I'm glad that they're thinking about it though, and I mean, you start looking at like what would happen if they nerfed him to a 5/5, and I still think that he would be played, which is crazy to say.
I think if they made him a 5/4, he would still be played.
Damn, I don't know about a 5/4. That is a huge tempo loss, but maybe. But with that being said, we can talk about Rock Slide now. This is what we were alluding to earlier. So, Rock Slide has been moved from a 4/5 to a 3/3. So let's see what the devs have to say about this. Here we go again. We know. Darkhawk's the star here. While he's out front signing autographs, Rockslide's loading the van with rocks. It's not a perfect metaphor, but somebody has to do the dirty work. However, this isn't just a small nerf to the Zabu Darkhawk deck, although that is its primary purpose. We're trying to keep power focused in Darkhawk if possible, as he's the appealing build-around element. We're curious to explore what the world looks like when we can reduce Darkhawk's reliance on Zabu, since it prevents both cards from appearing in a wider range of archetypes when the combination is so strong. Slotting Rockslide between Korg or Black Widow and Darkhawk might help that happen. It also might not. Maybe this goal is even doomed. Let's take a step forward, finding out. So, man, I don't know, man. Poor Rockslide. I think he's still good, and I even think that this change isn't going to kill the cards, because again, they do make a point. The point of putting Rockslide in the deck is to make your Darkhawk bigger. Period. End of story. It was just an added benefit that he was a 4/5. So I don't know.
I think it's a good change in the sense of I think that it's going to, like they said, the Darkhawk is going to be the big player in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And Rockslide being a 4/5, it was just, what is it 2 power per card in your enemy's deck for Darkhawk?
Yes.
Yeah. So he was effectively a 4/9?
Yep.
With Darkhawk down. So I think it's for the better, because even though, he is still putting power in another lane, it's not as much power. So it's easier for you to overtake the lanes that Darkhawk isn't in, which gives you a better edge against Darkhawk.
And here's something that I haven't heard people saying. I think that they're right. I think Zabu might not be necessary in the deck anymore. And that might be blasphemous to say, but here's the thing, right? All you need is Darkhawk down on turn 5. Turn 6, you do Mystique and Rockslide. They're both 3 cost now. Turn 6, you can play Rockslide with Mystique, no Zabu required. So, I don't know. Maybe Black Widow is the play. It's always been suggested in Darkhawk lists. It's just there hasn't been really a reason to when Zabu is the main, appeal there. But hey, Korg, Black Widow, and Rockslide are also a really good curve right now. It's a 1, 2, 3.
What a line.
I don't know, man. It's something to think about. Honestly, this might make me try a Darkhawk deck. I'm a little curious to see if the Black Widow does anything.
You want to.
Yeah, I kind of do. So, the last change here, and this
Take it
is
away.
Obviously, this is for me. This is just for me. They talked to me. They discussed it. I was on the phone with Ben Brode, and I was like, "Hey, Boo. I really like Lady Deathstrike, but she can just use a little power bump, right?" And you know what? They delivered. So, she was a 5/3. She's now a 5/4, and let's see what they have to say about it. While we were willing to take a chance missing 2 high on Legion, the same wasn't true of Lady Deathstrike. The difference is stark. If Legion is in the best deck, games might get a little wacky, but if Lady Deathstrike is in the best deck, games might be super frustrating. However, we still want her to land on solid ground, and it's become clear that she could use a little help. We're going to try this buff for size, and if it doesn't work, we will evaluate a more significant change. I think that this is perfect. I think as a 5/4, she works even better in the deck that I like, and especially better in the decks that really counter some of the best decks in the game right now, right? You can put Forge on Lady Deathstrike and get rid of Brood lanes before they get buffed. That's pretty huge. You know what I mean? Like, having the ability to shut that down is super important. I think that she's going to see more play. I'm personally having a blast with her in my deck. I still have a positive win rate on the Valkyrie Lady Deathstrike list, and I'll be interested to see if some more creative stuff comes out. So yeah, those are all the OTA changes. What would you think overall? Do you think that they targeted some stuff that was annoying? Do you think they missed the mark?
I think they targeted. I mean, I don't run into that many Darkhawk decks, which I feel like realistically is the biggest nerf that really happened. But I don't know. I think they're all just kind of middle of the road changes for the most part. None of them are necessarily too crazy, I feel. So I'm fine with it.
I mean, and I'll say this: I personally believe that a card game, it's a tough balance. I love seeing buffs more than I like seeing nerfs. You know what I would have loved to see? Because I think this has been... I don't think it's just a me thing. I think this is a pretty consistent thing. There are some cards in this game that just don't get any love. I'm looking at Punisher. I'm looking at Captain America.
Looking at you, Domino.
Looking at Domino, right? All these cards that, you know, maybe they're doomed to stay bad forever, and maybe that's where they're supposed to be. But I believe in a world, Daka. I believe in a world where these cards can be played, they can be good, and they don't always have to be the second-rate option. And I'd love to see some changes for that. I think that these changes are fine. I'm a huge fan of the Lady Deathstrike and Doctor Doom buff. I really don't like the Captain Marvel buff, but she is very prevalent in the metagame, so maybe we'll give it a minute. And yeah, I think overall, the game is in a really good spot. From the discussion I've seen online, the meta is never in, like, distress. I know you weren't there for it, but the leader meta and the Shuri meta were awful. Awful times to be a Marvel Snap player, and they were a little bit slower to make drastic changes, and I feel like they're much quicker about it because of the OTAs right now. So yeah, overall, really cool patch, really cool season, and I'm excited to see what happens in the Loki season. I'm so excited to try cards. Yeah, before we close this podcast out, anything else to say?
You know what, Kier? I have one collector's cache, and I'm going to open it right now, and we will see what it gives me.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Boom.
What'd you get?
I got a variant.
Ooh?
Can you guess what variant? Oh no, I accidentally closed the collection.
Is it a pixel?
No.
Damn.
I got Steampunk InfiNOT.
Hell yes! Hell yes! Let's go! I do. That is my favorite variant. I have it on InfiNOT right now. My boy, welcome to the club. I'm giving you a virtual handshake right now. Congratulations.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Happy to be here.
Hilarious. All right. I think that's a perfect place to end off the podcast. So thank you so much for listening. If you decided to listen, again, we are going to switch to a monthly schedule, so you can expect big episodes at the end of the month. And with that being said, if there's one thing that you can remember, it's that we're InfiNOT. Bye-bye.